Hello. This is the Bible in fewer words. We are Carol and Steve Wells. This is episode 65, Numbers, chapter 23 and 24. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Carol.
What are we doing today?
Well, we have to keep going with the story of Balaam.
Oh, and Balak.
Yes, but remember last time Balaam he had messengers come from Balak, asking him to come. And then he said, I can't go. And then he talked to God and he changed his mind, go. And then we had the talking donkey.
Oh, yes. The incredible talking donkey.
Yes. It was really cool. And then finally God changed his mind again and he ended up going. And now he's arriving.
Okay, so now he's going to talk to the king of Moab.
The king of Moab, yeah.
Okay, whose name is Balak.
Yes.
And we confuse that sometimes with Balaam.
Yeah.
So listeners, catch us if we make that mistake.
Right. We'll try to catch each other, but we'll see how it goes.
Otherwise, we'll just have to go to M and K.
And we also have Baal in this episode too, Bal.
Really?
Yeah.
That is very confusing.
A lot of B's.
Okay. So we're actually starting with chapter 22, which we just have one line, just kind of as a lead-in to chapter 23. When Balaam arrived in Moab, he and Balak climbed the mountain of Baal.
Yeah, and Baal is one of the local gods, and he'll show up a lot in the Old Testament. Kind of a competitor of Yahweh. Okay, chapter 23, verse 1. Balaam said to Balak, build me 7 altars and get 7 oxen and rams.
Balak did as Balaam asked, and they sacrificed a bullock and a ram on each altar.
Balaam said to Balak, stand by the burnt offering, and I'll go away. Maybe God will come to meet me. I'll tell you if he shows me something.
So Balaam went up to a high place, because God likes to hang out in high places, doesn't he?
It's not so much God. What happened in the region is that people worshipped gods on hills.
Oh.
They had like poles and different things, and a lot of times they were worshiping other gods, and in this case, Baal.
And why do I remember reading in the Bible that God wants to destroy all the high places?
Yeah, he does.
Is that to get rid of his competing gods?
Yeah, he's always wanting to do that. Yeah. But in this case, it's kind of strange because God is appearing, well, we'll see, but he's appearing at these places which really are dedicated to other gods.
Yeah, that is interesting.
So in verse 4, God met Balaam and put a word in Balaam's mouth.
Just one.
Well, that's the way the Bible puts it, and I kept it that way because it's repeated throughout this. He's always putting a word in Balaam's mouth.
Maybe he's worried that, Balaam, who's been talking with his ass, doesn't need any more than one word.
Yeah, could be.
So Balaam returned and said this parable to Balak.
Before you go on, this chapter is always talking about parables that Balaam is telling, which is very strange because we think of parables like the parables that Jesus, told. And these are quite different. They don't sound like parables to me, but that's what they're called.
So now I'm going to have to ask you about Jesus's parables. Like they're kind of riddles, or they're stories that compare one thing to another, and then you should apply them to what's going on today.
Well, yeah. I mean, a lot of the parables are fairly simple and easy to understand. Some are not. And we'll see when we get to the New Testament that Jesus actually said that he spoke in parables so that his followers would be able to understand what he said.
But nobody else could.
Wouldn't be able to.
Okay. So you're right. So he is speaking in parables here.
Yeah, well, they certainly are kind of nonsensical, it seems to me. But we'll go ahead and read them.
Okay. So this is verse 6. So Balaam returned and said this parable to Balak. You brought me out of Aram, saying, come curse Jacob for me and defy Israel. Can I stop you there?
Yeah.
So Aram is a place?
Yes, that's where Balaam is from.
Oh, okay. Good.
And remember in the last chapter, That was the whole point of the last chapter. Balak realized that the Israelites were coming. And he saw what they did to his neighbors, and so he wanted Balaam to come because he'd heard that Balaam was a prophet and that he spoke to God. So he wanted him to come, since he had this special relationship with God.
Yeah.
He wanted him to come and curse
the Israelites.
The Israelites, right.
So going on with verse 8. But how can I curse whom God hasn't cursed, or defy whom God hasn't defied? I see them from the hills and the top of the rocks. Who can count Jacob's dust and a quarter of Israel? Okay, so this is kind of a confusing thing, this whole little story.
Yeah.
What the heck does that mean?
Well, Jacob, Israel are the same guy.
Oh, I remember that. He's got several names, Jacob.
Yes, yeah, he has those two names. And his offspring, his descendants, are called the Israelites. And they're the ones that are taking over the countryside, moving through.
Yeah, the one God is protecting.
The one Moses was leading. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay, so
he's saying there's so many of them, you can't count them. You can't even count a quarter.
They're like pieces of dust, or
they're
little
like dust,
sprinkles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Balak just said to Balaam, "What have you done to me? I asked you to curse my enemies, not to bless them."
Balaam said, "Don't I have to say what God told me to say?"
Balak took Balaam to the field of Zophim. He built 7 altars and sacrificed a bull and a ram on each altar. Balaam said to Balak, "Stand here by the burnt offering while I go meet God off yonder."
So God met Balaam and put a word in his mouth again.
And Balaam said this parable to Balak. After that, I guess this is the word that he put in his mouth.
It's more than one.
Yeah.
God isn't a man, so he doesn't lie. And he isn't the Son of Man, so he doesn't repent.
Seems like he does those sometimes.
2 things,
yeah.
Yes.
God commanded me to bless, and God has blessed. I can't undo it.
God brought them out of Egypt. He is as strong as a unicorn.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? He's as strong as a unicorn. Heck, I think he'd be even stronger than a unicorn.
Probably.
The people will rise up as a lion and drink the blood of the slain.
All right, so this parable is saying God's going to come and protect the Israelites, and he's going to beat up the Moabites.
I think so.
Like a lion.
Yeah, it does sound like that's what he's getting at.
Mm-hmm. So verse 27, Balak said to Balaam,
"Come with me to another place. Maybe God will make you curse the Israelites from there."
Balak brought Balaam to the top of Peor, another mountain, I take it.
Yeah, they keep going from one hill to another and offering these sacrifices, building altars, offering 14 animals there. It's a big deal.
It's a huge deal.
Yeah.
Build me 7 altars and sacrifice 7 bullocks and 7 rams.
And Balak did as Balaam asked and offered a bullock and a ram on every altar.
We're almost to the point now where I'm going to say to you, we've done this once before.
Yeah.
We could now just say this happened before. We don't need to go over it again.
Yeah, except for I think it's important to realize that this is happening several times.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, so this is chapter 24. When Balaam went into the wilderness, he had a vision of Israel in their tents.
The Spirit of God came upon him, and he said these words while falling into a trance with his eyes open.
Nice tents you've got there, Jacob. And tabernacles, Israel. All right, that's a weird line to say.
Yeah.
Nice tents.
Nice tents, yeah.
And nice tabernacles.
I'm taking a little bit of liberty with the language. That's not exactly the way it's phrased in the King James, but I think that's what it's saying.
That's the idea.
Mm-hmm.
His king will be higher than Agag, and his kingdom will be exalted. God is as strong as a unicorn again.
Yeah, I usually don't repeat things, but it
That was
seems like
very
it's kind
funny.
of important.
Yes.
It's said twice, so I said it twice. He will eat up nations, break their bones, and pierce them through with his arrows. He crouches and lays down like a lion. Who will stir him up?
I think I know who will stir him up.
Yeah.
Balak and his Moabites. Verse 10. Balak was angry with Balaam. He clapped his hands and said to him, I asked you to curse my enemies, and you have blessed them 3 times. Go home.
Balaam said, Okay, I'll go. First, though, let me tell you what the Israelites will do to you in the latter days.
Balaam said these words to Balak while in a trance with his eyes open. A star will come out of Jacob, and a scepter from out of Israel. They will smite Moab and Sheth. Edom and Seir will be their possessions.
So there's some strange things in there, isn't there?
So what is, I know Moab, but what's Seth?
Sheth is actually
Sheth.
Seth.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
It is.
So
And that's a guy.
He's a guy.
So they will
He's one
smite.
of Adam's sons,
Uh-huh.
and he's who Noah descended from. So everyone really is descended from Seth, pretty much, because all of the people on the ark were from Seth.
Yeah.
So smiting Seth is kind of smiting everyone.
Yes, but smite Moab, I mean, that's a place, right? That's a whole
Right.
area.
Right.
There's no person named Moab.
No, it's a place.
Okay, so a
So
place and a person.
I think he's really just saying they're going to smite everybody.
Okay.
And then before that, the star that comes out of Jacob,
Yes.
that's referred to as the star prophecy.
And what is that?
Well, many people think it refers to David,
Okay.
because David was from the tribe of Judah, and he became the king of Israel later.
Mm-hmm.
Others think it refers to Jesus.
Oh.
Yeah, and this was the Star of Bethlehem that he was referring to here. And Jesus is the guy that's going to smote Moab and Sheth.
Oh.
I guess.
Jesus.
I don't think they use that part of it. But if it was Jesus, then the whole context here would say that he's going to smite pretty much everybody.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Not the kind of guy that, they try to portray.
it's pretty hard to get a prophecy out of this, but both Christians and Jews do.
Okay, so the line about Edom and Seir, I mean, those are,
Those are places.
Places.
Countries. Mm-hmm.
so they'll get taken over.
Yeah.
So verse 20. Then Balaam looked towards Amalek and recited this parable. Amalek was the first nation, but he will perish forever.
So this is a strange one. I mean, well, no, not really. We know that God's already been fighting with Amalek, and we're going to be fighting with him forever.
Yes.
So I guess that kind of makes sense. Then he looked on the Kenites and recited this parable. I guess he's up on a hill and he can look out and see all these different
He
things,
turns
these different countries.
around a little bit and
Yeah,
sees
so now
something
he's kind
else.
of talking toward the Kenites.
Uh-huh.
Your dwelling place is strong and you rest in a rock, but the Kenites will be wasted until Asher carries them captive.
All right, this is so confusing.
So I don't know what that's about, but Asher is one of the tribes of Israel.
Okay. Also a boy's name nowadays. Asher.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is verse 25. Balaam got up and returned home, and Balak went on his way. I guess he was as bored with those parables as I am. They're just kind of weird things.
So yeah, they're very difficult to understand. But the basic thing is Balak asks Balaam to come and curse the Israelites because they were coming, and he was worried about them.
Yeah.
And God told Balaam, changing his mind a few times, but he eventually gets there, and then he refuses to curse them because God blessed them. And he's threatening Balak and everybody else that you're all going to get destroyed by these Israelites. There's nothing you can do about it.
Uh-huh.
And then he goes home.
Okay. So
And we will
Balak
see him,
didn't get what he
We will
wanted.
see him later. He'll show up later in the Bible. Not much, but we'll see him again.
And we're going to see Balaam again or Balak again?
Balaam.
Because Balak's going to get wiped out.
Yeah, I don't know that we ever see Balak again, but we
Okay.
definitely do see Balaam.
All right. Well, that was kind of a ride today.
Yeah.
Up and down little mountains. And who's
Yes.
talking, Balaam or Balak?
Yeah.
Sorry if we've confused you, folks.
It
We're a
isn't
little
confusing. These two chapters are kind of confusing, but I did my best.
Yes. Good job, Steve. Okay. Hey, I want to remind you that Martin Watkinson does the beautiful music on our podcast. And Steve has done all the research and all the work on this. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. See you next time.
Bye-bye.